Now, last week, Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was referred to a leadership tribunal over allegations of misconduct in office relating to a $1.3 billion loan. The tribunal is scheduled to sit in January and will have the power to dismiss, suspend or fine Mr O'Neill. That comes on top of an arrest warrant issued against him on a separate matter earlier in the year. But while he may appear embattled, he has dismissed the threats against him as the manoeuvrings of a weak opposition. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has been speaking with the ABC's Liam Cochrane.
Governments will change, that is a fact, whether this government or the government in future. But I can assure you that some of the challenges that we are facing today are because we have a very strong majority in Parliament. They are unable to influence that majority in Parliament to challenge us on issues that have got merit to the debates that is going on in the country. So we've had some false allegations about corruption, which not one single person can prove that I benefited personally. Not one single person. It is about some letter that has been suggested that it originated out of our office, but that are now going through the courts, and there's some common sense prevailing at this present time, because we have got a very independent judiciary that is able to make sure that it makes its decisions based on proper evidence.
Papua New Guinea has rich mineral deposits, rich petroleum deposits, and yet often struggles to translate that into improvements for the lives of its people. In fact, it's been noted that North Korea, Zimbabwe and PNG are the only countries in the world expected to not meet any of the Millennium Development Goals. Why isn't PNG's wealth being translated into improvements for people's lives?
Well, we've had past governments who have not been able to prioritize many of the issues that you are raising. That includes health and education being the key ones. But since coming to office, we are able to make great strides into achieving the outcomes of the Millennium Development Goal. That is very much appreciated by all international development partners, including the United Nations and the UNDP and all its agencies in Papua New Guinea. We've got 1 more million kids in primary schools as we speak today because of our free education policy. Our free healthcare policy is making huge differences in the way we deliver healthcare in many parts of the country. In fact, this is the first time a government of our country has been able to fully fund the health sector or the education sector in the country. So I think some of the data that is coming up in comparison to Zimbabwe or North Korea or anywhere else in the world is a bit unfair to Papua New Guinea because over the last 2 to 3 years we have made significant improvements. We know that we are not going to achieve the Millennium Development Goal, but we are very much well on track, and I think over the next few years you will see a significant improvement in those numbers.
One of the key ways that the government is hoping to make sure that wealth does translate is through the Sovereign Wealth Fund, obviously a cornerstone policy for the country. There have been some predictions that most of the money going in will essentially flow straight out through the stabilisation aspect of the fund, and very little will remain in the savings fund.
The rules around the establishment of the Sovereign Wealth Fund is very clear, that it will be managed independently, it will be invested in also investments of a very high-graded portfolios rather than the wastage that we are used to in the past. So I think credit needs to be given to this government that we are getting the parameters right in the establishment of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and we will make sure that we invest wisely, and we are starting to also improve the management of our SOEs, the state-owned enterprises, and these are all geared towards making sure that we get better returns out of those investments for our people.
So in 5 years' time, what would you imagine will be invested or saved through the Sovereign Wealth Fund?
I think in 5 years' time you will expect several billions of US dollar managed by the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and it will continue to increase on that. We are not only talking about revenues from LNG, we are talking about revenues from all the projects, the major mining projects and the other gas projects that are coming on stream. So I think you will find a significant build-up of funds in that Sovereign Wealth Fund that has been established.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you very much, and good to see you again.